attended the event in Warsaw, the capital, many throwing flares and setting off illegal fireworks, while others threw stones and burned cars. In all, 19 people were injured and 72 were arrested. The violence overshadowed the opening of the UN climate change talks being held there, and Poland's growing far-right movement is taking the blame. Gulliver Cragg brings you this report.
Flares and scuffles as the far-right's Independence Day march moves through central Warsaw. Here, police are trying to stop a nationalist mob from storming a squat. The squatters have taken refuge on the roof. Another enduring image from the riot is the sight of this rainbow, a symbol of tolerance and pluralism, burned to cinders by people who do not share those values.
That rainbow was a provocation. In front of the Church of the Holy Savior. Why put a rainbow like that on that square? It's provocation. Poland is a Catholic country.
Opposing what it calls homo propaganda is an obsession of Poland's national movement. This is the third year in a row that the Independence Day march has turned violent. Many participants hid their faces and appeared menacing from the start. Many others, though, saw the event as a peaceful protest or even a celebration.
I came because I'm a patriot. I love Poland, and I wanted to show that in some way.
This is not a band of hooligans rioting. This is the voice of people's discontent.
I haven't seen any rioting. I've been marching the whole time. There are lots of people here and a friendly atmosphere.
The authorities disagree and blame the organisers for €30,000 worth of damage. What seems clear is that the far right is seducing Poland's frustrated youth. Later that evening, the liberal radio station Tok FM devoted a public debate to the problem of the extremists' hijacking of patriotism and radical politics.
There's a very weak radical left existing in big cities, but is far smaller than the nationalistic movement that's growing rapidly.
The movement is also joining forces with other nationalist groups in Europe. Last week, it organised a counter-summit in opposition to the UN climate talks and invited delegations from Hungary, Italy, Sweden and France.
For us, it's an opportunity to strengthen our ties for a certain struggle that we have in common. So we meet, we talk, we make plans.
Poland's national movement disputes the globally recognised science of global warming.
To give them a taste of their own medicine.
It's madness, ideology, and we want to speak about it very loudly and clearly.
Members of the legendary Solidarity trade union agree. The organisation had no qualms about participating in a far-right event.
We treat it as an action in defense of Polish industry. It so happens that that party has the same views as us on this issue, and on the scientific level, we're able to help them.
Anti-fascist campaigners were shocked that the organisation that brought democracy to Poland now seems to be siding with anti-democratic forces.
Solidarity stands for human rights historically. Well, it is quite depressing that Solidarity could be manipulated into hosting an event together with right-wing extremists.
In Poland, the division between conservative patriots and violent extremists is alarmingly blurred.
And for more, Gulliver Cragg joins me from Warsaw. Gulliver, how have various authorities reacted to last week's violence?
Well, people are looking particularly to church authorities for a reaction because these demonstrators claim to be fighting for Catholic values. But there's actually been very little comment from people high up in the church hierarchy. So some bishops are getting accused of tacitly condoning such violent acts as the burning of that rainbow sculpture. And actually, back to politics, some opposition MPs, conservative ones, have explicitly condoned that act. And one then backed a plan to redo the rainbow in the colours of the Polish flag as a compromise. That's obviously an idea that for the gay community and liberals generally would basically mean handing victory to the thugs. As for the government's reaction, it did just simply roundly condemn the violence, as you'd expect.
Now, in other news, in Warsaw is the UN climate change conference being held there. What progress has been made since talks started last week?
I've heard there's been a press release that I just got this morning saying that there's been no consensus on market mechanisms, which was one of the targets of the talks, and that discussions on that will be deferred until next year. But really the high-level segment of the talks hasn't started yet. The environment ministers are arriving today, so there's still all to play for on the other threads that they're supposed to be discussing.
All right, thank you, Gulliver Cragg, for that debrief after your report from Warsaw. Now it's time for what's making headlines in the world of sports, and France is playing a decisive home game against Ukraine today. Les Bleus' participation in next summer's World Cup in Rio is on the line.
France will have to rewrite history if they're to avoid missing out on next summer's World Cup. An abject performance in Kiev left the French trailing 2-0 against Ukraine ahead of tonight's second leg playoff in Paris. A deficit that no team has ever overturned in a European World Cup playoff. Despite their predicament, France captain Hugo Lloris still harbours hopes of turning things around.
Il va falloir agir tous ensemble.
Well, we've got to work together on this one, show that we can be a great team, because pulling off such a feat would prove that we are a great team. So now everything has to be done. We mustn't lose energy. We can't play this match in our heads before the game, but as soon as it begins, we're going to have to give everything. We've got to give our best. Current coach Didier Deschamps was in the side the last time Les Bleus failed to qualify for a major tournament, the 1994 World Cup, and he's hoping to avoid a repeat scenario. Of course, the ideal scenario is to score an early goal, but we mustn't be impatient. The truth is that time isn't in our favour because of what happened in the first leg. But we can do it bit by bit, also by speeding up the tempo of the game and making things happen. We have to find the right balance. I'm not expecting the Ukrainian team to be compact and only play defensively. They have some qualities. They proved it on Friday. We'll have to be capable of putting in a huge effort in attack, but also in defence. France will have to reshuffle their defence, with Laurent Koscielny suspended after his red card in the first leg. Samir Nasri may find himself replaced by Mathieu Valbuena after a poor display in Kiev, while Yohan Cabaye could also be handed a start. Sweden and Portugal are just one game away from the World Cup finals in Brazil, but which nation will qualify? The Portuguese take a slender 1-0 lead into the second leg after Cristiano Ronaldo's late goal illuminated the Stadium of Light in Lisbon last Friday. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was starved of service, but his coach Eric Hamren stresses that the match isn't about the two stars, Zlatan and Ronaldo, but the two teams.
And for us, it's not Ronaldo versus Zlatan. It's Portugal versus Sweden, or Sweden versus Portugal. Yeah, we need to score. That's for sure. They can play more on the result, so they have an advantage in that. But we meet a really good team with the real good individual players, so we can't start the match to just play forward and try to have the ambition to score easy and early, because then they're gonna punish us quickly. So we need the defense we had in Portugal too this game. We need to have that work together and that strength together in defense. But we need to be better quality when we win the ball tomorrow than we were in second half in Lisbon.
The freezing temperatures will suit the Swedes, who've welcomed the appointment of English referee Howard Webb for the game in Solna. Lance Armstrong's accusation that the former head of world cycling helped him to cheat has prompted the International Olympic Committee to react. Armstrong said that ex-UCI president and IOC member Hein Verbruggen staged a doping cover-up at the 1999 Tour de France. Norwegian IOC member Gerhard Heiberg insisted it was the first time the allegations had come to light. Well, first of all, we've got a zero-tolerance policy with regards to doping. This is all new to me, so I still haven't thought through what we can and what we should do. But if it's shown to be correct, then we've got to discuss what we're going to do to show the world that this is completely unacceptable. One of our closest representatives might have known all this and denied it for all these years. So we have to find a way to show the world that this is totally unacceptable, again, if it's correct. Armstrong, who's been stripped of all 7 of his Tour de France titles, alleged in an interview with the British Daily Mail newspaper that Verbruggen had helped him to backdate a prescription. Verbruggen denies the charge, but could be summoned before an independent anti-doping commission.
That's it for this portion of Live from Paris. Up next, Stuart Norval will be back. He'll be speaking with Catherine Stapley in Cairo ahead of rival protests that are expected in Tahrir Square today. Stay with us.